How many hours a week are you spending on your email? Think about it. Is that time really spent your highest and best use? If you've been listening to the last two episodes, then I think you know what you should be thinking about when it comes to outsourcing your inbox. But there are still so many questions about how to really put this in place without dropping the ball in the meantime. I'm sure you've got doubts that you can really hand off possibly your most important communication channel. In this, part 3 of our series on outsourcing email, I'll sit with Jess Birken to have a fun, expansive discussion of the challenges of handing off your email to an assistant, how to get started, and how to ensure you're even more productive and responsive to clients, colleagues, and your own team. Let's get to it. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Luke Olson with Minnesota CLE, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this installment of the Jess Birken Just Wants to Help webcast series. As always, our host is Jess Birken, the owner of Birken Law Office, and a dedicated trailblazer for the modernization of solo and small firm law practice. Today, Jess welcomes John Strohmeyer from Strohmeyer Law for a discussion around email delegation.
So today we are talking about email delegation. And I know this is something I've been doing for quite a while, and I think you started doing in the last year or so here, right?
Yes, I really started doing email delegation last February, so February 2021.
Right on. So I want to kind of talk about, and I don't have any formal slides or anything. So if folks have questions or you want to see something in particular, just ask and we're happy to talk about it or pop it up on the screen. But the first thing I kind of want to definitely talk about is overcoming that primary sort of mental hurdle to get started with email delegation. I know for me, I've been doing it for so long now that it's hard to remember what that was like. But if I think about it, it was terrifying to think that I was going to let some other person who was not a lawyer and not me and doesn't necessarily know what's going on with my clients or my firm get in my inbox and do stuff in there. Was that the same for you?
It is, and it's still, here I am a year in, it still takes work, but you're right. It, oh my gosh, it comes in, I think, 2 flavors. Flavor number 1, I can't let anybody do something that isn't as good as me doing it. I wouldn't dare impose a less than John quality response on my clients or anybody in my inbox. The other part, and I think this one's actually way more sinister, is, it'll just take a minute for me to do this.
Yes.
And so I think we'll end up talking about both of those, but those are the 2 main varieties. It has to be perfect, so I have to do it. Or it'll just take a minute and let me get distracted on this. And then all of a sudden you're 15 emails deep on things you shouldn't be dealing with.
Oh my God. So I had a back office day Monday, and I literally was like, I'm going to export this PST file that I need to do from Outlook. And that's what I'm going to do. All I did, John, was open Outlook. And somehow half of the day disappeared because I ended up responding to a bunch of email, and I never freaking exported that. It's Friday today. That was Monday. I still haven't exported the PST file because I just opened Outlook and I got sucked into everything. And if that isn't a great testimony for how distracting your inbox is, I don't know what is, because here I am, supposedly some sort of delegation master, and I couldn't even do it. So it'll just take me a minute. You're just a human, right? Like you just see the thing in there and you are like, oh, that'll just take a minute. Meanwhile, 4 hours of my day is now gone because it was just going to take a minute. So I cannot agree with that more wholeheartedly, even after all this time. I wonder if it's worth kind of addressing the other hurdle, is the financial commitment, especially for solos who might be running a very tight ship. You know, a lot of times people think we get a little black and white thinking going on. Like, if I'm going to delegate my inbox, that means I have to hire a legal secretary, and I can't afford to do that. And that's not necessary, right? You could totally get a virtual assistant who works with you 5 hours a week. You could have an intern. That's how I started. You already had staff, so I'm assuming you allocated this to somebody on your staff.
No. And so how did I get here? I started like most people. My inbox was my little fiefdom. I took care of everything. I quickly learned years ago, I can't do this all myself, but the firms I was with didn't give me the support in terms of administrative. Like, they didn't understand you could have somebody in your inbox unless you were a partner, and that just was too much. So the workaround that I used and worked really well for me, and I think this is really a part of the first place to go, is using the rules function in Outlook. Or I think, Jess, you're in Outlook as well, correct?
I am an Outlook. Yes. Some people are probably on Google for Business, and I pity them.
But yeah, everything we're going to talk about in terms of Outlook, you could still do in Google. We're just going to use Outlook terminology because that's what we like. I have all sorts of rules. I have dozens, if not hundreds, of automatic rules set up. You know, if certain people I know, I don't want to just throw their emails away. The CLE arm for the Texas bar, just all of the conferences that I'm, like, hey, maybe you want to come to this. I put it all in one place and I can check that once a week or so. And I got really good at setting up the rules to automatically route lots of just basic emails. And I was able to kind of get by on those for a while. Like, use the technology for the things where, like, if it comes in from this person, we don't have to think about it a second time.
Yeah. So just to break that down, you're using a rule. And I did this too in the early days, right? It's like, hey, everything. I mean, this was back when we had the solo serve listserv, where it was like actually coming to your inbox. It's like, I want to look through those, but I don't want to see them in real time cluttering up my inbox. So I'm going to make a rule that directs anything from this listserv to a folder. And you can do that with newsletters you subscribe to, or things that come from the bar association that you want to look at later, but not immediately. That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Okay. And then I got a little more advanced. If I was in the CC field and it came from somebody in my staff, I've got a CC from Brad, I've got a CC from Kimmy, I've got a CC from Bobby, and those all go into separate folders, because my staff knows if you CC me on it, it means you are sending it for us. There's nothing I need to read in there. Then I've got a kind of a backup CC only folder for everything else. Again, my assumption is if it's in a CC for me, I'm not the primary intended reader. There's nothing for me to do. And that's where, like, you can get pretty smart about it, but those rules ultimately are going to break down, because you do want still somebody going in there, taking a look at things. I'm not going to check the CC folder as often, but it doesn't mean everybody has like my kind of baked in rule of if you're in CC, you don't really need to do
Yeah.
anything.
It could be I'm CCing the boss because I need the boss to see this and take some action right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's offline action. Yeah.
Yes. So that is where we then get into, we need somebody else in there, and it can't just be our eyes. And I think that's where is this where you want to start transitioning more to where we start with this?
Yeah. Well, and I think there are some other things that people have tried that I have seen that I don't think are as good as delegating your inbox. And I want to kind of address those. I think they're red herrings in a way. One is I'll just set my out of office and put an autoresponder on there that says, I respond to email at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day. And you try and sort of just manage your time that way. I personally think that that is a jerk move. I'm going to keep it clean with my language here today. I think that's a jerk move. What do you think?
It's an option I know some people use. I've heard in the way back, lawyers would automatically have the out of office on all the time as a CYA of we will read and respond to your email in due course, legalese. But ultimately, yeah, the problem is that email is delivered immediately and the expectation is it's been delivered, so you will have read it. Let me manage this. Putting the out of office, I agree. I don't do it. I've considered having that in there. It doesn't work the way you want it to because people are getting this cold message of, yeah, I got it. Thanks. And I think it comes across that way too.
And it's not helpful to anybody. They don't want a bounce message. They want to know the answer to their question or whatever, right? So we're giving them something that doesn't have any value and positions me as more important than them. And my response to this is don't train your clients to expect an immediate response. Don't be the person who's responding to your client's email at 10 p.m. at night from bed as you're trying to get ready to go to sleep. Don't live in your inbox and respond immediately. Have maybe a little document or like a client expectations worksheet that they sign when you hire them that says, our commitment to you is we're going to get back to you within 24 hours or 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever you want to say. And then reiterate those expectations. Don't just be like, yeah, your email was received and I will look at it when I'm good and ready. Thanks.
Yeah. Here's the best way to get in touch with me. And whatever it is for you and your firm, list it out, because when somebody emails you, they've taken something on their list and mostly they're trying to put it on your to-do plate. And they're hoping that because it just came in, feed on the need we have to have zero inbox, or at least nothing undone in the inbox, and like pirate you away from whatever actually valuable thing you may have been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know for me, I'm a solo, right? And I was maybe trading emails with some of these bigger firm lawyers, and I would email them and then I would get a response and it would say, yeah, Sally is available at 3 p.m. on Tuesday for that call, sent, sincerely from Shannon, sent on behalf of Sally. And I was like, oh, huh. And I think for me, that was kind of a kick in the pants because there's a mental hurdle that you have to get over. That's like, oh, it's unprofessional, or, oh, clients are emailing me and they expect me to respond. And so when I saw some of these big law attorneys had delegated their inbox and were clearly, they're responding from their boss's inbox, right? And that's perfectly acceptable in that legal sphere. Why wouldn't it be acceptable for me? So I was like, hey, if it's good enough for them, I'm going to try this.
I mean, people have gatekeepers and assistants all over the world. Lawyers are not special in that we must respond to everything.
Yeah. And that's, another sort of thing is like I must, like you said, I must do it myself. I dated a guy once that was sort of a high-end consultant in the car industry, in race car, and he would answer the phone and he was always like, I can't get my work done because I'm always answering the phone. And I was like, why would you do that? Why would you be the one that's sitting there responding to the email and answering the phone when you try and make an appointment with your cardiologist? Do you call and the cardiologist answers the phone and answers your 3 questions that you have about your upcoming heart surgery? Hell no.
No. And I think, yeah, to interrupt, but also to get to kind of the deeper thing, I can hear somebody right now saying, but there are clients who want to speak only to me and they will go somewhere else if they don't talk to me directly. And I get these calls. I got somebody who called in yesterday. They want to hire me for the work that I do, but they wanted to talk to me directly right that moment. And that's just not always feasible. You've got to manage the expectations on this, but you also want to make sure that the clients who are going to be overly demanding in ways that you're not going to be able to satisfy them, you need to make that decision for yourself that that's not a good fit. And
well, they're not good clients. That's the thing. It's like, then you're just taking every case that walks in the door because you're afraid to say no to anything. Can you imagine if you were going to have brain surgery and you called the brain center and said, I need to talk to Dr. Nguyen right now? No, I will only speak to the doctor. Put the doctor on the phone. I mean, what kind of crazy town would that be in your mind? So why do we treat ourselves any differently? Like, it's fine to be like, I'm sorry, I'm in surgery right now. I am working on the Smith appeal or whatever. Like, I can't just be answering the phone. I can't be answering your email at the drop of a hat. I don't know. That is like a hurdle that we have to get over because we just get taught that we have to be the ones. And especially I think if you're in an eat what you kill firm or you're solo and you are like, but Jess, I need to buy groceries at the end of the week. It can get very scary to say no to people or to put up some barrier that you are afraid that you will lose business over. But I think if you do it well with a high service implementation, you won't lose any business.
No, and this is what I get to a lot in not only in the podcast, but in the occasional bit of consulting I do for law firms. Having standards not only for how you respond to people, but also what you're willing to accept in terms of new clients. If somebody is unable to email you or unable to accept that they may receive an email from somebody who is not a lawyer, that's a standard you want to set for, whatever that is. If you want to agree to that, that's fine. But if you're going in higgledy-piggledy and every time it's a new standard or there is zero standard, then of course it's going to be a little crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a whole scoring matrix that we score clients as they are attempting to come in and hire us. And my assistant and I score them. And if they score, it's like golf. If you have a low score, you're a great lead. And if you have a high score, or some significant red flag items, we might decline the representation. And I have found just over time that the red flag clients that you say yes to because you really want to buy groceries at the end of the week end up being your worst nightmare. They suck up all your time and energy and prevent you from doing more fulfilling, more lucrative work with other clients because of it's the Pareto rule, right? So with that said, I think if you can get over the fear and the mental hurdle and the excuses and the cruddy solutions that don't really work, then you can actually start to chip away at delegating the inbox. And I think we should get into the meat and potatoes here about how do you start doing this?
Yes.
So here's what I'll say what I did. I hired an intern, basically, just some gal who was out of college. And first I Googled how to delegate my inbox. So don't be afraid to do that and read a bunch of articles. There was a really good one back in 2015 or whatever about doing this from Michael Hyatt, who I don't even know if he's relevant anymore, but I learned a lot from him. And I kind of took some notes from him. And what I did with her, Alicia Aubrey was my first email inbox person. She would just monitor the inbox and she would flag stuff that she didn't know how to deal with. So I gave her some upfront instructions, like if I get something that's spam, delete it. If I get something that's like a newsletter, you can ask me if I want to be unsubscribed. If it's, a client and they just have a question that you can answer, try and answer it or ask me. And then anything that she couldn't handle was she would flag it with a little flag in the Outlook, and I would sort my inbox so I would only see the flagged items first. And then like a couple of times throughout the day, we would touch base and she would say, okay, here's where things are at with your inbox. This person has a question. How could I respond to it? Or can I respond to it? What would I say? And then, I would just go in and only deal with the flags. Now I'm saying this like as if I did this magically and without any mistakes. And that is not true, because initially what I was doing is Alicia Aubrey was in my inbox and I would also leave my inbox open and be like responding to things as they came in, which really cut off her ability to do anything. So that's number one, is when you find this person, you need to actually let them do their job. And then I think for me, number two is don't assume that they're going to magically do everything all at once, right? They're not going to know anything right up front. You and I were at the Maximum Lawyer Conference and I was talking about this topic, and Bill the Lawman, you should totally Google the Lawman, by the way. Anybody that's listening to this, Bill is fantastic. His Instagram is epic. He raised his hand and said, this sounds great, but how do I do it without wasting all of my time training this person? And I was like, you don't.
You don't. And that's the thing. It's just like everything in life, you're going to have to get your reps in. As I think you came up with, you've got to pay the tuition on this. The people aren't going to know magically how you think until you've taught them this. And when I got my first email assistant, it wasn't, all right, you're going to respond to everything for me. And they still don't respond to everything for me. But we started with, here are the folders. Here's the setup. I want you to go and start looking in, the junk folders, the folder I have marked as garbage marketing. Here are the folders that need to be checked regularly. Make sure that you know what's in there so you can kind of see the cadence of what comes through. Yes, you're also looking at my regular inbox, but until we've started figuring out what these rules are, what my comfort level is for some of the responses that you're going to send, I don't want you in there, and it's just going to take time. And you'll say, well, why, if I've got to invest this time, when's the payoff? It's, you got to build the machine before it will work. And it took weeks before, I don't want to over.
I think that's fair. Weeks,
but yeah,
but the payoff is immediate because you are no longer leaving your Outlook open, looking at crap as it comes in and being distracted. Someone else is looking at it. And then, yes, you have to train them. You have to take time out of your day, but there is an immediate payoff that you are theoretically not in there. They are in there.
And that's what I was really getting at. It's not, it will take weeks to get a payoff. It will take weeks for them to really get accustomed to see what's normal. And so like, you've got to train yourself. Again, the fear is going to be real of, oh my God, I'm not in there. I haven't looked at my email in 15 minutes.
15 minutes,
there could be a bomb in there. And what I found was useful, having my assistants, they have my cell phone. We do primarily in intra-office communication through Basecamp. They know if they have questions, don't email me about it, send it through Basecamp, because that's for internal communications. It will ping up on my phone if I need to, if I get a ping there, which is fine. Like, send me that. I know if it comes in there, those are usually quick questions, but they're all internal.
Yeah. Oh, huge pro tip right there. Do not use email for internal communications. Use Microsoft Teams, chat, whatever their thing is. I don't know. I use Slack. John's using Basecamp. There are lots of them, but for the love of all that is holy, stop using your inbox for internal team communications to the greatest extent possible.
Right. It gets people out of that mindset because it'll also help them train themselves to not use email in the same way that most people use in a damaging way. So they've got Basecamp for normal. Hey, how should we respond to this? This morning, I got an email. I got a Basecamp ping from Harmony, who is in my inbox. These two clients, outside counsel, technically they're opposing counsel, but really they're not. Everybody's on the same team. Has asked us to ask our clients these questions. Would you like me to just go ahead and email them? Yes, please. That's a quick response. But it's not another email in my box. They knew somebody we trust, another lawyer, had emailed and asked, can you ask your clients? Yes, just go ahead and ask them. For things that are bigger emergencies, they also have my cell phone. They can text me if it's time sensitive, if they think it's something that can't wait. And this was one of the bigger things of knowing I can get notified immediately if there is a problem. If they see something that really is a fire, they will let me know immediately. And
that's the thing. I think that's why we keep our email open a lot, because we are afraid of not responding to the thing that really is urgent. And for a lot of lawyers' practice areas, there are things that happen where there is a time component that's extremely urgent. Like maybe I made a mistake and I have to do something by 5 p.m. Or my client has some board crisis at their nonprofit and their meeting is tonight and they're desperate to ask me a question. I don't want to miss those things. So you keep your email open, but then everything is open, right? And I love, 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 love the delegation of this, because 100% agree. I know for a fact if there is an emergency, I will be told. Megan, who does it for me now, will track me down wherever I am in order to let me know that there is a true emergency thing that I need to respond to, right? That is like the best peace of mind ever. And it lets you focus on the Smith appeal or whatever it is you need to do, because you have that security that you don't need to worry about it because somebody else has got it.
Right. So just having the backup to appease your inner, worry wart, knowing that if something is truly important, somebody will catch it. This morning I had a CPA I'm going to talk to this afternoon. We're scheduled for 3:15. He wanted to know, can we move it up 15 minutes? My assistant texted me because it is something that I may not have been paying attention to, but yes, yes, please go ahead. I have the time on my calendar. I have no problem moving this up.
Yeah, right on. So I want to circle back to the good habits creation, because I think that is where this most likely goes wrong. I know that's where I struggled initially, was teaching yourself a new, I think the instinct is, yes, I'm going to hire this person. And one bad thing can be they're going to wave a magic wand and make all my problems disappear. And I don't have to do any work to help make that happen. Right. That's false. Cue Dwight from The Office. False. Not correct. But then the other thing is, as if I don't have to change in order to make this happen. And I had a lot of bad habits, like having notifications turned on, like keeping my Outlook open, even though I wasn't supposed to be checking it, like compulsively checking my email, because I was in the habit of compulsively checking my email and then responding to stuff that maybe my assistant could have responded to, but never got the opportunity to because I was already on top of it. What else?
I mean, starting with just turning off notifications almost everywhere, it feeds into the same problem. You're getting distracted. The notification says, hey, look at me. And turning off the little toast notifications that Outlook wants, like, oh, you just got an email and it pops up in the lower corner. They call it toast because it looks like that, but really, if you leave it on, you're the one who's toast, because you're never going to be able to pay attention to it. And it's so rare that you need all of those notifications.
Well, or worse, I did a wonderful program with Minnesota CLE back in the day when we were doing in-person stuff with Erwin Karp, who's like this time management guru guy. And he was talking about how your brain is still biologically programmed to trigger a fight or flight response when you see something out of the corner of your eye. So when that little like window, like boop, boop, pops up and it gives you a little preview pane of the email, he's like, your brain biologically is literally going, is that a tiger? And he's like, you're doing that to yourself all day long. Stop. And once I heard that, I was like, oh, it's science.
Yeah.
I should just turn this stuff off. Right.
There we go. All settled.
There you go. Totally. But because you're distracted, it's distracting you and it's making you think I got to deal with that right now because maybe it's a tiger. Yeah. The notifications, I go so far as I have no sounds. I have no badges on my phone. I also do not have any sort of like, on the app, it'll just show you like a little number or a little envelope symbol or something like saying you have new email. No shit, Sherlock. Of course I have new email. I have like 100 emails a day. I don't need that little envelope or the count to sort of stress me out or provoke me to check the email. And people are like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. Like, yeah, no, trust me. You can turn all those off and you will still check your email. Even when you're on vacation, you're still going to look at it because you're a lawyer and you can't help yourself. So just turn off the notifications.
And one of the other things that I've done on my phone is I've taken the email program. I've got Outlook on my phone, but it is not on page 1 of my phone. And even though it is on page, it's on page 2, but even then it's inside of a folder with all of my other work stuff.
That's awesome.
That it is a little more buried. I've already turned off the red circle of doom. So I don't see how many emails are in there. It's buried a bit, so I don't open my phone and initially see it. I open my phone and I see the weather and I see my podcast player and all the other fun little things that I want my phone to do, but not check this, never-ending task.
Yeah. I like that too, just from a mental health standpoint, because it's so hard for attorneys to like log off of work. And when you are logged off and it's dinner time and you're just like opening up your phone to check the football score or something, you don't need the Outlook app staring you in the face and reminding you that work exists. And maybe you should just go ahead and look in there. No, don't stop it. Put it in a folder on the third page. Yes, agree. Those are great habits because it's letting you have your delegee. Is that even a word? Your helper do the thing, and keeping you from keeping up your bad habits that you need to turn into good habits. Okay. So how did you find this person? I feel like I have like lucked into most of the people I've worked with. And when people are like, well, how do you find someone amazing? I'm like, you go to grad school with their cousin.
Yep.
Like, I don't know.
So I got a referral from another lawyer friend of mine who works down the street from me. And she and I were talking. She mentioned that she was using somebody outsourced to help her with her email. And I said, great. I need help. I'm drowning in this. I've reached the point where I can't manage it myself. So I use an outsourced service. It is called Virtually Brooks. And I have 2 people who are in my inbox so that if one of them is sick, the other one is still going to be there. Because it's a larger business, they have other people. They save all of my instructions in, I think, I'm pretty sure it's a Google Doc that we can all access. And they know, they learn the rules bit by bit. You don't build the wall in a day, but just rule by rule, getting them up to speed. So I've stayed with the same company for over a year now, but I have transitioned through a few assistants. Like the first two they had, personality wise, we just didn't match up. And because I was with a company, it was a lot easier for them to say, okay, these two assistants didn't work for John. It was, just, it didn't work and everybody's fine. They were able to swap in here. Let's try these. Somebody, one of them left the company, and it wasn't as though I was completely on my own for weeks while they tried to figure it out. Like, okay, well, Jen left. You've got Harmony was already there. Amber's the one who's going to come in and be the assistant as well. She's got somebody else, she's got the existing rules. She knows that certain people, like, she can read through all of them, get a quick update on where things are, but also get the practical, this is how to do it, how to get up to speed. And I wasn't stuck when somebody left or when something didn't work out.
Yeah, I love that. And I love using a US based VA company, because most of those folks are highly skilled communicators, and that's what they do at their company, is help professionals with delegating tasks. So they can really help you figure out how to delegate better. And they've done it before, most likely, because they probably have like 3 or 4 clients that they do this for, or you are their new client, but they worked with a different client in the past. And I know sometimes I get a little pushback because it's like, oh, it's so expensive to use a service like that rather than hire your own. But it's a lot easier to, I use Mountain 46. I love Nicole and everybody at Mountain 46. I have a bunch of friends that all use them for virtual assistants, and it's so much easier to scale up and down. I don't have the employee problem. I don't have the wage and hour compliance. I don't have to do 941s for payroll. I don't have to, it's just, yeah, price probably 10% more expensive or whatever. But I can say I only need 10 hours a week. And if you're just getting started with this, it's so much better to have someone who knows how this is supposed to work, right, kind of help you and be like, "Okay, come over here. You're delegating to me now. Don't be a dummy." I think that's worth it. And then they can help you document, okay, what are my rules? What should I be doing here? And they can help you document everything, so that if you do want to hire your own person, or you want to have like a recent college grad in your town or something work with you, it's kind of figured out, and it's not on this new kid who's never done this ever in their whole life to figure out how it's supposed to work. I love that. Just as like a foundational, I'm going to do this for 6 months and then I'll hire someone local.
Right. And I'm not planning on hiring somebody locally for this.
No, me either.
It works. If anything, I'm thinking about how do I get more out of them by having them in more inboxes, because I've got 6 other people who work for me. The next person on my list really is going to be probably my operations manager, just because he gets a lot more emails that are disconnected from me. The associate attorney who works for me, I would like her to have the assistant as well, just to get her used to that. But right now, because she started for me, full-time as an attorney last August, she's not getting the volume. She doesn't have as much. And the things that are coming through her generally are already on my plate anyway. So, there are 2 options. One, scale Kimmy up only because it'll be a minor thing, or get Brad involved as my ops guy, because he's going to cover more things, and it's going to take, I see it as a bigger return to get Brad up and going faster.
Yeah. What's kind of a natural outgrowth of having somebody manage your inbox too is having them also manage your calendar, right? So giving them access to your calendar, and when somebody says, "Hey, are you available at 3 p.m. on Tuesday?" they can respond and say, "Yes, I'll send you an invite. Sincerely, Megan, on behalf of Jess." Now, of course, that also leads into you should be using online scheduling and not be trading dates and times. But that's right. different CLE, go watch the Jess Birken Just Wants to Help online scheduling. That was a fun one.
Yes, I mean,
They
it
could
just
do so much more.
right. And yeah, them having the links to know how to schedule for you, just here are the default links people generally understand. And then also knowing if you're not available, they have the authority to go in and find time as needed. Outlook has a feature called focus time where it looks, I think it's 2 weeks ahead, and it looks at your schedule and it automatically blocks out 2 hours per day. And you can tweak on this. So by the time you get there, it's ensuring you're not just wall to wall every day. I find this is really useful because it's generally 2 hours every day that doesn't have anything in there, but it's also ensuring that we have flexibility. If there is an emergency, if somebody can't get in on my calendar, Amber and Harmony know the focus time is there as the flexibility. It's there to flex. If somebody needs to get in sooner, by all means, go in there, take that time. Yeah. That's what it's there for.
One of the questions I get a lot is, okay, so you've delegated your inbox. Does that mean that this person is replying to email as you, or like some other weird ethics kind of a question? And I think it's important just to note that, like, I have a separate signature in my inbox that Megan uses when she's responding from my account. It's very clear to the recipient that she is Megan and she's in my account. Right. And so it'll be like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Yes, Jess is available at 3:00 on Tuesday. I will go ahead and send an invite for that time. And then it's like, sincerely, Megan Heitkamp on behalf of Jess Birken. So there isn't any sort of like lying happening, or you can't do this because ethics, or like you can't have this person in your inbox because of attorney-client privilege. Like if you already have a paralegal or legal secretary or any other person working with you in some capacity, it's the same. Basically. Yep.
And the two types of things, just to put it another way, responding as you, for my assistants, when they're doing it, generally it's things that they're not thinking about. They're certainly not offering any legal advice. They obviously know they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But because I use Text Expander to save the responses that I need all the time, they have certain responses they know. Just go in, oh, this person is looking to schedule a call. Here's the verbiage. And they just type in on Text Expander, the little expansion code, and it shoots out. It doesn't matter if it comes from me or if it comes from Amber and Harmony. The message is the same. This is something we should talk about. Here's the link.
Yeah. And that's a great tip. The Text Expander, that's actually like an app that you can get and install on your computer, on your phone, that helps basically it's like a shortcut, right? Where you type in a little like phrase or something and it says, oh, you want let's have a meeting about this. That's a great question. Let's have a call. And it pops out the full response that you would normally spend a full minute typing. And you just type in a little short code and it just goes bloop. Here you go. Yes. Expands the text. Yeah. It
expands. And so number one, you don't have to think about those responses. Like, how do I word this? 2, you don't have to type it out. Number 3, you don't have to mistype it out, then go back and correct it. I'm an okay typist, but if I don't have to think about something, then I'd rather not.
Well, and it helps you have standards, right? It's like, This is how I want you to respond every time it's this kind of a response. Then you've typed it and they get to implement the Text Expander form. We do that too. I don't use Text Expander, but we have like a Tetra. We use Tetra, Tettra. And because we have a lot of like, here's a complicated email about what's happening next with your nonprofit startup. And it's like, it's a form basically. And my paralegal or whoever is going to send this email and it's going to say this. So having some of those things documented is a great tip.
Right. And I mean, you get to pick your own code. So,
paying the tuition. It takes time to set up Text Expander or whatever you use. But for us, one of the biggest ones we use is the date. Just, we know, type pound DTE and it will shoot out 4-year or 4-digit date hyphen 2-digit month hyphen 2-digit day. And that's how we save the beginning of every document. So they will just naturally sort chronologically in our folders.
Oh yeah, I do that too, but I manually type that stuff. I got to look at this. I didn't realize you could use it that way. That's boss.
Oh, and just everything gets done. You don't have to think about it. But the other things are just having your responses. Here are the links to my Calendly for a new call for estate planning, new call for probate, new call to talk about a trust, new call to talk about taxes. They're different Calendly links, but they're all in there as an option in that. And again, the person reading your email and helping you with email, they have the code. It will prompt them, here's the option. Make sure you pick the right one. But again, that's a training thing. And they'll know, all right, here's the response that we need to send. And here's the different types of calls.
Yeah. And that's like advanced baseball stuff, right? So the first thing is just actually delegating your inbox. And I think that there's probably a fair number of people who are like, okay, but that still sounds really expensive or really scary. Is there anything else I could do instead? And I would say delegating to the robots is always my number one go-to solution when I don't want to pay to delegate to a human. So for me, if there is something that I can automate and still have it meet my quality standards or my, friendly vibe or whatever it is that I am putting out there into the universe, I will delegate it to the robots. So here's a couple of examples. The first is when a new potential client comes in the door, they email, like maybe they've been connected to me or they use the contact form, and we respond to them once as like, hello, welcome. I am actually responding to you. And then it's like, I'm going to send you some more information about the firm. And maybe it's like in a copy of our ebook about starting a nonprofit, depending on if that's the right thing. But then we BCC a special email address that adds them to an active campaign automation that sends them a welcome sequence that runs over the next week. So like on day 1, they get this. On day 3, they get this next email. On day 5, they get another email. On day 7, they get a final email. So I don't have to pay Megan $25 an hour or whatever it is to sit there and like every time, okay, now I got to remember to like send this person this information. It just happens automatically. And you could do that yourself if you're a solo, right? You don't need a Megan to do that.
Right.
Or like right now I have a thing. So, okay, the thing that happens for me a lot, and this might happen for you too, because of the tax component, I'm waiting for the IRS. Yep. We're doing a nonprofit startup and it's like, hey, I sent your application to the IRS and now we're waiting. And we might be waiting for 4 months or 6 months or 8 months or God knows. But clients want to check on their status, but I have nothing to tell them. Right. And this happens in criminal law too. Like, what's going on with my case? Nothing. We're waiting for the hearing date to come, just like whatever. We've got an automation where I email the client and say, hey, I finished your IRS application for tax exemption. We're going to be waiting for XYZ time. And then that BCC address sends them into an automation that just pings them. Maybe it's like once every 3 weeks that says, hey, I just wanted to let you know we're still waiting for the IRS. I don't have anything else to report. I just wanted to keep you updated. Yeah, and otherwise I have to pay a person to do that. And that's silly.
Right. And again, email delegation includes delegating to the robots. It's not just to a human in your inbox. And so using all those tools, I have not done that. I have not done the delegate to an email auto drip like that.
But it just does. Like once you start, you're just like, oh my God, I could do this one and I could do this other one. And like chasing the documents, like when you have to ask people for their documents and then you have to, we haven't heard from so-and-so. We still don't have their homework back. Like we'll just put them in a sequence that reminds them and says, click here to upload your documents. and then eventually they'll do it. But you didn't have to pay your staff to go chase that document. Oh, it's the best, John. I'm telling you.
Yeah, just thinking the way we do things. I'm gonna have to think.
It depends. It depends on your practice area and whether you need it and whether that's the right level of service for you and whatever. But for me, being like a lower cost, I'm all flat fee. So I'm trying to be very efficient so that there is a margin, and chasing people for their stuff is one of the ways I waste my staff's time. Or worse, before I had staff, I'm wasting my time that's worth the most money. So it's like, forget that. If I can, and the thing is, it's not like these automations are sending, please send your documents. This is the robots asking you. It's got my signature in it. It feels like I wrote it. You can do it in a way that feels authentic. Like in that new lead nurturing thing. I think in the first email I say like, hey, this is Jess. By the way, this is an automated email. Like, let's #honesty, which is totally the way that I am. So you can do it in a way that is brand aware for you, and still feels personal. And you'd be surprised how many people reply to those as if I sent it to them myself. What else is there to say? Any final thoughts, pro tips? What you got?
Like everything, this will get out what you put into it. It's not going to be a flip a switch and the light comes on and all your email is delegated. You're going to have to invest some time to get this up and running. Like everything, you need backups to it. So what happens if your assistant changes jobs, doesn't work for you anymore? You'll need to know what happens when you need to transition, because you don't want to be left in the lurch on it.
Yeah. That's really great advice. What I will say is why this is important is not really all about your convenience. I learned the hard way this past year. I got several head injuries and had ended up with post-concussion syndrome, where I literally could not look at a screen all day. And I was really incapacitated, and still am to some degree, from doing a full days of work. And for a while last summer, I couldn't even look at my phone or computer hardly at all. And if I had not delegated as much of my inbox and all of the other things as I had, I don't know that my firm would have made it. And it was just sheerly the fact that I delegated so many things and had set up good systems that my firm was able to tolerate the fact that I couldn't be fully present. And if I had to have been checking every email myself, I truly do not think that I would be in the same position that I am. So for your own business's vitality, you need to do this, just to make sure that you are taken care of and that you can leverage those systems to you in good times and in bad, right? Exactly. So that's my thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I worked for the Four Seasons for years. It was founded by a man named Isidore Sharp. He wasn't checking people in anymore. He had let go of many, many things about running that hotel, and that it allowed it to become the worldwide hotel that it did. It's going to be the same thing for us as we run our firms. We may not have dreams of worldwide domination for our law firms, but letting go allows you to grow bigger and help more people.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. Because we are in a helping profession. And if your goal is to help more people or help people well, delegation's got to be part of your plan. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. I think we're going to kick it back over to Luke right now, and I will see you on the podcast.
Excellent. Thanks, Jess. So much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcouncil.com. You can get in touch with me at john@fivestarcouncil.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.